everyone, and welcome to the Kiki London YouTube channel. My name is Amanda, and in today's video we're going to be doing my own nails with one of the new Kiki London rubber bases. So I'm really excited to show you guys how I apply the rubber base. It's a brilliant product to work with, especially now we have this coloured range. Here we have my nails. I recently removed one of the rubber bases that I had on them, as I did have a little play around when they first launched. And these are the 8 new colours. If you did miss last week's video, then do go and check that out, because I swatched all 8 of the new rubber bases in that video, and we talked a lot about their consistency and the product in general. Now for today's video, I went for number 5, which is this gorgeous dusky pink, very pigmented, creamy colour. Now last week when I did the swatch video, I said that number 4 was probably my favourite. And it is, but I did feel as though when I was looking at all of these colours against my own skin tone, I felt as though number 5 would suit me best if I wanted a really nice natural look. So I decided to go for number 5, and I'm so glad I did. It's such a beautiful colour, and I felt as though it suited my skin tone perfectly. Now that's one of the amazing things about the new launch, is there is definitely a nude in this kit for everyone. So if you haven't already got the collection, do check it out. I will leave a link in the description box below to the website. So let's start off with my nails. I did wipe over them using one of the Kiki London alcohol pads, just to cleanse my skin and nails, to make sure we're working on a nice clean surface. I've then taken the Kiki London double-ended cuticle pusher. So on one end you have this pushy scrapey side, and as you can see, I'm pushing back all that excess cuticle. You might not necessarily see this cuticle on the nail plate, but once you start pushing with your cuticle pusher, it starts lifting up all that excess cuticle, and you need to make sure that you are removing this from the nail plate. If you don't remove this, then you are going to end up with your product lifting as that cuticle grows up the nail plate. So you want to make sure that you lift up any excess cuticle that is on the nail plate and push back your cuticles. Then I like to flip to the other end of this cuticle pusher, and this really helps scrape away any excess that you have pushed up. So if you've pushed it up but it's not yet removed it, I find that going in with this end of the cuticle pusher, you're able to scrape that off the nail plate. You want to always be very gentle when you're working on your natural nail plates and working with the cuticle and skin around them, so I'm always being very careful. I love this end of the cuticle pusher because it really gets down into the corners and really gets down the side walls and gets out any areas that you might miss with the cuticle pusher. So once I push back all my cuticles, I'm going to wipe over them with the alcohol pad again, just to make sure we've removed all of that. Now I didn't have too much cuticle work to do, in all honesty, because like I said, I have recently had a set on, and I only had that on a couple of days as I was playing around and testing out different colours and different designs. So I didn't necessarily have too much cuticle to push back or remove, because it wasn't that long ago I did a full prep routine. But it is going to depend on the client. You will find that if you've had a client that's neglected their nails, or they haven't had their nails done in a long time, then you might have to do more cuticle work on them compared to somebody who comes to you regularly or uses cuticle oil regularly as well. So moving on from the cuticle pushing stage, we're going to take the Kiki London nail file, and I'm just using the 180 grit side of the file just to neaten up the free edge of my nail and get my nails all to a uniform length. As you can see, my ring finger and the little finger was a little bit longer than my pointer and middle finger, so I'm just taking the length down a little bit just so that they're more of a matching length. I'm doing this very carefully. You only need the 180 grit side of your file to file the natural nail, because the natural nail is going to file really easily and you don't want to take too much length down too quickly. So as you can see, I'm just going along that free edge, and then I'm just going to straighten up the side walls. My nails naturally are very, very short, so there's not a lot of shaping to do. If you're working on somebody with longer nails, then obviously you can create more of a shape, and you probably would spend a lot more time getting a good shape. I just neatened them up, to be honest. Now that we have done the shaping, I'm going to take my Kiki London buffer and I'm simply going to be using this to remove the shine from my nails. Now, you don't want to be applying your gel to a shiny surface, so you kind of want to just buff over them very gently so that you're not removing any of the natural nail plate. You're kind of just gently scuffing up the surface so that your gel has something to grab onto. And I like using my buffer to do this. It's very soft and gentle. You can get down around the corners of the sidewalls and the cuticles using the corner of the buffer, as you can see here. And when I'm buffing, I'm not necessarily going backwards and forwards in one spot. I'm kind of moving that buffer all around in different directions, circular, up and down, left and right, because you don't want to be hitting that same spot on the nail over and over. You just want to make sure you're having an overall general buff of the nails. And I'm using the 100 grit side to do this. I did feel as though the 180 side would shine the nails rather than removing the shine, if that makes sense. Some people as well, I do myself sometimes as well, prefer to use my 180 grit side of my nail file. But because my nails have been feeling a little bit thin and weak lately from all the bits and bobs that I've been doing on them, I just opted to use my buffer, which does work just as well. So this is what my nails are looking like so far. I'm now going to give them a good scrub with a nail brush just to remove all of that dust from filing. Now, as you can see, my nails are quite weak and thin. Now, naturally, they've always been very thin, and then I was on a medication for a while, which made them quite weak. And I used to always struggle keeping gel polish on my nails. I would find that it would always chip off quite easily because my nails are quite thin and bendy at the free edge. But since using the clear rubber base, I eliminated that problem, and it definitely become my holy grail product because I was finally able to keep a set of nails on for 2 to 3 weeks without any problems. Now, after dusting off the nails, I took one of the Kiki London alcohol pads, and this time it was to make sure, again, I'm cleaning the surface of the nail plate, but also because these are alcohol pads, it dehydrates the nails. So it's going to remove any oils, any natural oils that are on that nail plate, and leave you with a nice dehydrated surface, which is what your gel polish or rubber base or whichever product you're putting on your nails needs to stick to. Then we're going to come in with the Kiki London primer, and as you can see, I'm applying a very small amount. You really don't need lots of this. You just want to make sure that you get a thin coat over the entire nail. Now, this product air dries, so just give it a minute or so just to completely dry and then come in with your product. It probably does only need actually a couple of seconds to dry. It dries fairly quickly, but it does air dry. You don't need to stick your hand in your lamp or anything for this. And then what the primer is going to do, the primer is going to prime your nails ready for your base coat. So normally this is where we would come in with our clear base coat, whether you use the regular base coat or the rubber base coat. But here we have the new coloured rubber bases. So these are great if you want to use them underneath a colour. It's perfect because the colour is going to cover any imperfections on the nail, any discoloration. So it's going to help your colour go over the top a lot smoother. But then we have the range of nude shades, so you're able to do this as a two-step manicure, so you don't necessarily need to apply a gel polish color, which is what I'm going to be doing today. We're simply going to be doing a nude set of nails. Now, I love the selection of colors, but like I said, I went for this one because I felt as though for a natural look, it complemented my skin tone perfectly. It's a really beautiful, rich and creamy shade, and it's got such full coverage as well. Some of the other shades in the kit are a little bit more sheer, so again, there's something for everyone because not everyone wants a full-on nude coverage. Some people might want a lot more of a softer or a lot more of a natural look, so there is a shade for everyone, like I said. Anyway, let's talk about the application. So what I did was I'm wiping off a lot of that product from my brush. When you open a new bottle of product, they are very full, so you end up with a lot of product on your brush. So what I like to do is make sure I'm wiping off a lot of that product, because if you come in with too much product on your brush, you end up with too much product on your nail plate and you're chasing it around the nail and it's flooding the cuticles. So it makes your life a lot easier if you wipe off a lot of that excess product and just have a small amount on your brush, because then you're going to be able to control it a lot easier, and then you're able to easily get a lot more smoother and neater application. Now, if you struggle getting a neat cuticle line, that's where the Kiki London detail brush really comes in handy, because you're able to use that small brush to get right up close to those cuticles without getting any product on the skin. So I'm going to talk you through my application. As you see, I start off, because this product's a little bit thicker, by applying it at the center of the nail. This pulls off some of the excess from my brush, and I'm then able to fan out my brush and take it up as close to the cuticle as I can. So as you can see, I'm turning my brush from side to side as we go around the cuticle and up the side walls. I'm really allowing my brush to fan out and do a lot of the work for me. By giving the brush enough room to fan out, you're creating a nice, smooth and neat cuticle line. However, if you then feel as though, I'm struggling to get closer, or I'm struggling to get a neat line, I just take a teeny tiny amount of that color on my detail brush and then just go around the cuticle line. I find I only have to do this on the first coat of color. Now, personally, for me, I like to keep my first coat of the rubber bases nice and thin. So I'm not worrying about the coverage at this point. I'm just getting down a really nice thin layer of product, and I'm really working it into that nail plate. Don't worry if the color looks too sheer or if it looks a little bit patchy or uneven, because that will correct when you apply the second coat of color. I've just found this way is the easiest way to get the product down, and making sure that it adheres perfectly to that nail plate and is going to last the duration of the set. When it comes to evening out any patchiness, or if the colour is not looking as opaque as you want it to, once you pop down your second coat of colour, you will massively see the difference in the pigmentation and the coverage. Here, I'm just coming over just to even everything out. I'm trying to make sure that application is smooth as possible. So this is our first coat of colour. I'm going to pop that in to cure for 30 seconds. The recommended cure time for the Kiki London rubber bases is 30 seconds. A lot of the time I do cure for 60 seconds because it's been a habit of mine for a very long time now. I do find that a lot of the time with my tops and bases, I cure them for 60 seconds just out of habit, because that was how I was trained. But if you are using the Kiki London LED lamp, a 30-second cure is sufficient. However, play around and find what works best for you. If you are not using the Kiki London LED lamp, then I would maybe recommend curing for 60 seconds just to make sure that the product has fully cured. However, if you are using the Kiki London gel products, I would highly recommend making sure you're using the full system, so you are using their lamp as well. Now that we've done that first coat of colour, we're going to come in and apply the second coat of colour. Now with the second coat, it's always a lot easier to get a nice neat cuticle line. It applies a lot easier because gel follows gel. So the second coat is basically going to follow where you've popped your first coat of colour down. So I always find it's a lot easier to get a neat cuticle line, so that I don't end up having to come in with things like my detail brush. I simply just make sure I'm going nice and slowly and carefully, working my product so that the brush is doing a lot of the work for me. You can see that I'm applying a little bit of pressure so that that brush fans out. And then I personally find that that's sufficient enough. I don't have to come in with my detail brush. Of course, if you are struggling, especially if you are a beginner, come in on your second coat with your detail brush as well. Now, when it comes to applying that second coat of colour, I'm applying it a little tiny bit thicker than that first coat, because I'm not focusing on working it into that natural nail plate. I'm just making sure to get a nice smooth coat of colour, and then that colour is really going to pop, especially with this particular opaque shade that's in the collection. The second coat of colour really gives you that full opacity. I did also very slightly cap the free edge there as well. Now that we've got that second coat down, it shows how quickly it is if you are using it as a two-step system, because you're cutting out a layer of product rather than doing a base and 2 coats of gel polish. You've just had to do 2 coats of base. So I also did my thumbnail off camera. I always do my thumbs separately so I can cure them separately. So I did exactly the same there off camera. Now at this point, if you were just keeping these plain, you would come in with your top coat and finish off the set. I wanted to add a little bit of nail art, specifically some foils. Now I didn't want these foils to stick to the entire nail, so I'm wiping off the very tacky inhibition layer that the rubber bases leave. So you don't need to do this step depending on what nail art you're doing, but I wanted to do it when I'm using foils because otherwise the foils may stick to the entire nail. And for this particular design, I only wanted the foils around the edge of my nails. So I'm taking a little bit of the Kiki London foil gel and my detail brush, and I'm kind of very roughly going to paint this around the edge of the nails. For this particular design, I wanted to keep it quite beginner friendly and easy, so you don't necessarily have to make sure that this is a really neat line. It doesn't have to be the same thickness all the way around. We're going for a bit of a shattered abstract effect, which I find perfect if you are a beginner in gel polish nail art. So don't stress about, if you are recreating this set, don't stress about keeping this step neat. Just simply frame your gel polish. And this is why I removed the tacky inhibition layer with one of the alcohol pads, because I don't want my foils to stick in the center. I only want them to stick where I'm applying my foil gel. And because the rubber bases have quite a tacky inhibition layer, there was a big chance that the foils would end up sticking where I didn't want them to stick. Now for our foils, I'm going to be using box 2, which is the classic metallic collection. Now these are probably the foils I use the most. I love these metallic colors, the rose golds, the chromes, etc. And they pair beautifully with nudes. So I went for this beautiful one here, and I'm just going to cut off a really small piece. You really are not going to need to use a lot of foil for this design. This square here is going to do the entire nail. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to simply really gently tap this on where I've applied that foil gel. You want to apply it really lightly. You don't want to be rubbing, you don't want to be pressing it down with your silicone tool, because that's going to give you a full coverage effect. And I personally didn't want that effect for this set. I wanted that broken abstract effect. Again, which keeps it really, really simple. These particular designs are very salon friendly because of how quick and easy they are to do. But I felt as though it gave off a really elegant yet fun effect to the nails. I really loved as well how it looked over the matte background. Now, as you can see, I got a few little areas where the foil did still transfer. So I'm just taking the round nail art brush, I've wiped it onto one of the alcohol pads, and I'm just wiping off those tiny specks of foil just to give a really neat application in the center of the nail. Again, off camera, I did exactly the same to the thumbnail. And I couldn't believe how well the gold looked against that nude. These nails are very, very me. On myself, I personally love quite simple nails, but I do love a touch of nail art. So this is a very me set of nails, especially for the moment. I'm loving all the nudes. So I'm going to come in and we're going to seal in our colour and our nail art. But I'm going to do that using the no wipe top coat. Now the no wipe top coat is perfect for adding an extra layer of strength to your nails, especially for those who suffer with any chipping or are a little bit hard on their nails. It's also my go-to top coat when it comes to sealing in nail art, just because I find, again, it's giving that extra layer of protection over the nail, and it's just going to help the durability for your nail art. Sometimes foils, etc., can be prone to chipping, so if you do suffer with that, definitely give the rubber top coat a try, because it just works wonders over the top for sealing those in. And as well, the rubber top coat combined with the rubber bases, they give you a overall system, if that makes sense. It's an overall strengthening system when they are paired together. So the system is perfect for those with weak or brittle, damaged nails, people who are trying to grow out their nails. Maybe they've been nail biters and they now want to change and grow out their nails. It's the perfect system for those kind of people. So this is what the nails looked like once I had cured that top coat. The shine on the no wipe top coat always blows me away as well. Previously with other brands, I have been a little bit unimpressed by their rubber top coats because you lose the shine, but with the Kiki London rubber top coat, the shine is amazing. So now that we have finished all of the gel polish treatment, we're going to come in and nourish our skin and cuticles using the cuticle oil. So here I'm using the Sweet Peach. You do really only need a tiny bit of this because it's so nourishing and luxurious. A little bit goes a long way. I really like to massage it in to all of the skin and cuticles around the nail, really getting under the nail at the free edge as well. And it's just going to really help replenish your cuticles, especially if you've been using acetone and from all the prep work and things like that. Ideally, you do want to be applying your cuticle daily to keep those cuticles nice and soft and nourished. And just look how pretty the final result looked. I felt as though these looked absolutely beautiful for such a simple set of nails. And again, if I haven't said it already, I'm really loving the new coloured rubber bases. Let me know in the comments below which colour you would like to see me use next, and I'll try to get a set done. I hope you all enjoyed today's video. If you did, please do give it a thumbs up, leave us a comment below, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Thank you all so much for watching. Lots of love. Take care. Bye bye.